The reason people aren't financially free is they don't know what to do and they don't know where to start. I want you to join Joey and I at the Virtual Inner Circle Live, April the 4th through the 6th, as we share with you the exact answers to those questions. We only do this event one time per year. I don't want you to miss out. Go to wealthwatchwallstreet.com/live and enter promo code podcast. When you're at this event, you're going to get your investor DNA. You're going to get access to up to 6 different passive income strategies. So you know, leaving this event, exactly what to do, taking our decades of knowledge so that you can start becoming financially free. Go to wealthwatchwallstreet.com/live and enter the promo code podcast.
All right, gentlemen, let's break this down in those 3 core areas. We talked about it, that the first one is that, man, this is, I believe, the greatest door opener out there. I think this is an opportunity that can unlock so many things. Eric, I'm going to let you go first. What is one of those big areas that you see that this unlocks for people?
Russ, were you aware that I have a couple really strong loves in my life? I love faith. I love family. And oh my gosh, Russ, I love pizza. I mean, I freaking love it. And so there is one big reason to go to CC's Pizza. And Russ, that reason may not be that the pizza's so good, but they provide options. And man, when you're an accredited investor, that is what opens up to you in the world of investing, is a world of options that are going to allow you to pick and choose the correct investment that fits you. And so that's my favorite thing about being an accredited investor, are the options that it provides me to choose the right investment for my family.
Oh, that's so cool. There are a lot of options at CC's Pizza.
The fact that you went CC's on that deal is just, it warms my heart. Like, you could come with any analogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you pulled out the gut bomb analogy just right out. I love that. So awesome.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many accredited investors go to CC's, but some of us do.
Well, let's, if it's all right, let's take it down a layer. You know, let's trim the fat since we're talking about pizza. Let's go a little bit underneath the toppings here. Give me some examples. What are some of those options that being an accredited investor truly unlocks?
Yeah, what it does is you can invest in real estate, Russ. You can invest in income-producing assets that aren't real estate. You can do tax-advantaged investing. There is an almost limitless number of types of investing you can choose. You're able to choose various operators with various experience levels. You can choose regions of the country to invest in. Just almost unlimited the amount of options that you have. Definitely requires some research. Definitely requires some guidance, because it can be a little dangerous without that. But just know, if you're accredited, there is an investment out there that should meet your needs.
Well, and I think kind of one of the things I've seen behind that, when you say options, when a deal is really good, does somebody really want to raise $100,000 for the deal or $100 million for the deal?
100 million, Russ.
Right.
Go big.
Right. So the good deals require lots of money, right? Typically, right? They're trying, when they can put that sort of deal, an opportunity together. Well, then in order for them to do it, that means they're going to start marketing it publicly. And so that's going to give them a lot more people to choose from, right? They're going to be able to get it out there further. So I do think the more options are out there, are because the deals require them to be able to see, to publicly talk about them. So I know we're going to go deeper into that in a second, but Mark, talk a little bit about why you believe this is such a great door opener.
Using a personal example, as Eric said, it opens up options. If your goal is financial freedom, wow, think about this. This is going to ignite your journey and accelerate you onward. And so by opening up those doors, I know this guy. He's a former airline pilot, reasonably handsome. I like to think reasonably sophisticated, but not so much all the time. But opportunities opened up because of the accreditation status. And so a specific investment came along. And that specific investment created the opportunity to have the cash flow necessary to be able to retire that airline job. And so now all of a sudden, financial freedom has gotten here in a compressed timeline. I mean, everyone loves it when the plane gets to destination safely. Everyone really enjoys it when the plane gets there on time, but people love it when you get there early. And so what accreditation did was compress that timeline by opening up opportunities that accelerated the journey and then unlocked what we all want, which is financial freedom.
That's why we say that you are constantly killing bears with your bare hands or spear diving for tuna, because you're always on vacation, man. You're enjoying that quote unquote retirement.
Which, just a fun fact, if I can sidetrack us for just a bit, I actually had someone come up to me in our Birmingham live event and actually ask me, so dude, tell me about the bear. And I said, well, if I would have killed him with my bare hands, we would be having way better stories. I'd have photos everywhere of that.
Hey, the bear, was just a metaphor for other things that you've, been able to kill in your life, man. That's why I'm using it, right? Sometimes it's just that alarm clock. So let's go over to the Stallion here. Stallion, you're talking about door opening. What does being an accredited investor unlock?
Well, I'll just point this out. How many times have you been on Facebook or, LinkedIn or wherever, and you see people who are raising capital for deals and they tell you all these wonderful things about it. Man, this is this new multifamily project that we're doing. We're buying at 20% under market value. We've got an amazing value add strategy to be able to exit within 3 years and double investors' money. And then the last line is accredited investors only. And you're like, oh, that sounds like an awesome deal. I really like this guy who's raising the money, but I'm not accredited right now. And you see that. So I would say on Facebook or these other social media sites, there's the scene that you either can participate or you can't, but depending on your status. But there's the bigger thing that I've seen from being in the circles that we've now been able to be in is the unseen, right? The deals that never even get put out on social media because they can't, right? They have certain limitations from a securities standpoint. They can't even put it out there for everybody. And so now you're like, man, what are the deals that I don't even know exist that are even better than the ones that you can see? And I mean, how many times, Russ, do we get people in our individual like WhatsApp chats and text messages saying, hey, this deal just popped up. Of course, it's accredited only, but man, this was never sent anywhere. And it's, hey, it's going to be a 90-day deal or it's a 120-day deal. And it's like some ridiculous return with very little risk. Those are the things that get unlocked by being an accredited investor, those doors that get opened.
Well, hey, you led right into me, man. When you say doors being open, the thing that I have been the most surprised and blessed by in an accredited investor status is being in the right rooms, right? Whenever we get together, and we'll be together next week in Dallas for our Passive Income Mastermind Retreat, there's a certain criteria that you have to have in order to even be in the room. What is that criteria, Stallion?
Got to be accredited.
You have to be an accredited investor, because any deals or anything that's talked about in that room, if you're not there, then you might not be able to take advantage of it if you're not at that point yet. And so we want to make sure that everybody in the rooms at the bare minimum can take advantage of the opportunities, whether it's tax strategy, right? Sometimes there's tax strategies. And to be honest, there's just certain levels where it doesn't make sense, right? The cost to get involved in certain things doesn't make sense. It may be an investment opportunity that we're all looking at together. And to be honest, we need to be able to share our experience around those, because that's really where the big win is in our Passive Income Mastermind. It's not necessarily just the deals we get to see, but more importantly, it's the experience of the other people in the room who've done those deals. Well, we need to be able to give as much as we get. And so that's one of the main reasons why we put that criteria in there, is that in order to be in the Passive Income Mastermind, you have to be an accredited investor. And I can tell you, like, we've had more access to opportunities and deals and relationships that are opening up future doors down the road because of being in that room. The second thing on this list is, what is if I'm not there, right? Like maybe I'm just not at that point yet, and that's okay. If you're not at this point yet, what are some of the ways that you can get there? So I'm going to come back to you, Eric. I'll let you start first. What's one of the ways that someone can get there if they're not already an accredited investor?
Russ, I would like for everyone to give everyone an idea through my favorite podcast that's out there right now, and that's the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast.
Nice.
On that podcast, these guys unpack all different kinds of side hustles to allow you to build your income, to build your net worth quickly. You know, we've had wholesaling by Jamil Damji, Astro Flip, right? We had Pace Morby on with Subject 2. We have STR training inside our own suite of training that we have under the Wealth Without Wall Street heading. You know, Fix and Flips by Bill Allen. Go back and find these podcasts that we've had and find these guys that I've just mentioned. And these guys are going to teach you and show you how to take where you are today, accelerate it to the point that you can get to accredited investor status faster than you ever dreamed. You know why? Because they've done it. The path is well worn there, and it's an option for you to get there quickly.
We can definitely increase our income. I've seen people who are making $50,000 to $75,000 a year and make $150,000 a year in assignment fees or doing wholesale deals. Right? We've had people in our own community who are making $100,000 a year in their main business, and they started up a couple of short-term rentals, and we're making a couple $100,000 just in that space alone. So there's a way to increase your income over that income threshold by working a side hustle. As we say, you know, we have this 9 to 5, but we can work during the 5 to 9s, whether that's before or after our work hours. And in that side hustle, we can actually build up our income that can maybe unlock some doors that we were talking about in the first example. All right, Mark, how about for you? What's some directions? Give me a roadmap for someone who is maybe not already at accredited status, another way that they can get there.
Well, aside from Powerball or just inheriting it, or sugar mama, sugar daddy option, which is probably not a tried and true path. It's definitely not sustainable. No, I mean, probably one of the simplest ones that's in your face, if you haven't quite gone down the investor road just yet, is take a look at what you're actually doing in your W-2. Sometimes there's opportunities to increase your W-2, which again, there's only so many hours in a day, so you're gonna hit a wall. There's only so many hours you can do that. And so if that's your initial thought, that's great. That's hustling. That's a form of it. But you really do need to look into some passive income, because there's only 24 hours in a day and there's only so many hours you can actually work. And so we got to start finding some of those other things. And what I would say to that is, but don't just jump in blindly. Don't just dive into the water thinking it's going to be deep enough. Do some research, do some vetting. Hey, maybe it's time to get into a community that has some education, because that education that you invest in is actually going to help build a solid foundation so that as you grow your passive as well as active income, right? As those income sources grow, you need to have that foundation so that when you do become accredited, you now know what to do with that power that you wield.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the Passive Income Operating System, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before, go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS. There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, pop quiz day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared though for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
So we were at an event at the end of last year. I think it was October, November. I can't remember, Stallion. And the conversation was, what are 10 ways that you can make an extra $100,000 in the next 3 months?
Yep.
Right. And this goes to what you were talking about there, Mark, is that there's sometimes we can add more income, active income, if we were just around people who think that way, that think that there's an unlimited way to create money. I mean, my dad was a remodeler, roofer, contractor. He always had an opportunity to go raise money by just letting somebody know that he was ready to work, right? Like there was just always opportunity. When I was in college, I could just take another shift in waiting tables and make another $150 that day. I mean, when you have this mindset of there's just another way, there's ways I can make more income. All you have to do is put your mind at work or be around people who think that way. You can increase your income. Maybe it's for a short period of time so that you can unlock some deals, but you can do it. Stallion, what about for you, man? What are some other ways people who've not at accredited investor status yet can get there?
Well, I'll just share, maybe you've got some capital that you have recently figured out, man, I've been putting money away into something I can't use, I can't touch. And now I'm on this train of like, how could I turn this into passive income? How could I create a side hustle? And I just want to encourage you, Russ and I started a land flipping business in 2020. And you guys have seen all the numbers because we've shared it on the podcast. But we went from zero to over $1 million in enterprise value with less than $300,000 invested. Now you think, oh, well, Joey, I don't have $300,000 to invest today. But over time, that was something you could be building over time. In our case, it took us 2 years to get there. But you could do the same thing by starting your own side hustle business and then building that enterprise value, whatever the assets are. And I'll give you another example. Somebody who is in the real estate space, and they, in fact, we had Niti and Pollock on our podcast a while back, maybe about a year ago, and they talked about how you could obtain over $1 million in real estate in 12 months or less using the BRRRR method. And just to give you like really quick reminder, that's where you're buying a piece of property, you're rehabbing that property, you're renting it to somebody else, and then you go and refinance it to get all your money back out. So you may only have, let's say it's $100,000, and you turn that into $1 million over 1 year. Now all of a sudden you're an accredited investor. That is thinking strategically and optimizing the assets that you do have to then all of a sudden unlock this status.
That's so good. One of our friends and partners says that the greatest way to build wealth is by owning an operating business. And I've seen what you're kind of alluding to, right? Like some of the people who've been listening to this podcast, Eric, who found some of these side hustles, if you will, and turned them into a business, right? At first, they were really self-employed, right? They were the one doing most of the work. They had a business license. They even had an employee, but really they were doing most of the work. But as they became a business owner, meaning they started firing themselves out of certain roles, putting people into roles, scaling the business to certain levels, they've been able to create wealth at a pace that you couldn't do just investing. I mean, we've had a guy that was on here talking about how he started a business and started selling stuff on Amazon. And over a period of 3 years have gone to selling over $10 million a year on Amazon. So his business is worth way more than $1 million. And he did that over a period of about 3 years. And that's one of those things where you say, hey, what's the fastest way to get to $1 million or get to that net worth statement? It may be to start a little small business using one of these concepts, installing people in it and scale it to a level to where you get to that point. And we've seen that happen. There's so many different opportunities and ways. All right. So we've covered, hey, what is this unlock for me if I'm an accredited investor? What are some ways to get there? But the last one we said, hey, you got to proceed with care. You got to proceed with caution. What do we mean by that, Eric?
Yeah, Russ, do you use a GPS when you travel on your phone or in your car?
I mean, unless I'm going back to my house from next door, yeah, I use it quite frequently.
Next week, when I'm going to be in Dallas and we're going to drive there, I would need to use a GPS. Well, it hit me a few months ago what the power of a GPS is, Russ. It's not that it knows where Dallas, Texas is. You and I can spin a globe and point to Dallas, or open an atlas and point to Dallas. The power of the GPS is that it knows where we are in relation to that goal of Dallas. That's how it knows to tell us to turn right in 1 mile, turn left in 10 miles.
Right.
So if you have a financial freedom goal and you're going to use one of your accredited investor status to make some investments, it's important that you have a guide and know where you are. So you need to know what your investor DNA is. You need to know what your investor buy box is. And you may need a guide to help you with those things. Because when we make investments, so many people turn to the performance page, but that's one of the last things you should do. The buy box means, what is your purpose? What are you investing for? Is it cash flow? Is it appreciation over time? Is it, you like real estate and you think there's safety there, so you want to be in real estate because it's an asset you can touch? Is it tax advantage? What about your timeline? These are my 4 Ps for investing. Second is people, not projects. That means we've got to understand who the operator is of some of these syndications or deals that we're going into. How many times have they done this successfully in this region? Where have they failed? And then we have to put in the third P, which is perceptiveness and prayer. Sometimes we're doing a deal and we just get that nudge. This is where some of the art comes into the science, that this just doesn't feel right. And maybe we need to back off. Maybe we need a guide or a coach to help us understand why we're feeling that way. And then the fourth P just then is performance. So when I say proceed with caution, I say have a guide to help you walk through these things so that you understand what you're investing for, not the performance of just the return.
So good. How about you, Mark? What's one of those areas that we should proceed with care around as we become an accredited investor?
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go in a group. As you level up to accredited status, you will have, as we said, many more opportunities and many more shiny pennies. They're going to come your way, and shiny objects and things you're going to be enticed by. One of the greatest ways to help you is to be in those rooms with other people that are accredited, both at the same level and probably further on, because they're going to give you those nuggets of wisdom that are worth way more than the actual investment. And so having that group, having a community that you can lean on, that's going to create that safety net for you as you evaluate these opportunities. I mean, that is the care that comes in. That's, like Eric said, as you get that weird, feeling inside, something's pulling you back. Hey, reach out to your community, reach out to the people that you've known and hung out with in masterminds and so forth. And they're going to be a tremendous resource to help you quality control all these ideas that come your way.
So good. How about for you, Stallion?
And I'll tell you, for me, it comes down to, just because you get the membership card, right? Hey, I'm in the club, I'm an accredited investor, does not make you an investor. On paper, you have the license. I'll give you an example. My daughter just turned 16. She has a license. She has a vehicle, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let her drive across the country, right? Not out of the gate by herself. There's a process that she needs to learn how to be an operator of that new responsibility. And I would say the same is for you. As you become an accredited investor, in my mind, all it does is emphasize your need for education, right? All of a sudden, you have to become an expert in due diligence, because every deal, and I love how you said it there, Mark, is that there's a lot of shiny pennies. And if you're not accustomed to looking at deals and going deep on who the operator is, the regions, like I love all the qualifiers that you guys have both shared. If you're not accustomed to going deep on what those things are, everything sounds good. And you're the exact person that gets involved in the deal that never should have been a deal to begin with. And unfortunately, there are bad players out there that will take advantage of that newer accredited investor that didn't know any better. And so, man, become an investor. And if you don't have that, right, there are ways that you can get trained on that. We have an Ignite program, the Ignite coaching program, that will actually help you to become the investor that you need to become. So check that out. Give us a call at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call and talk to our team about how to get the education necessary.
I'm going to round this out here as we're talking about being an investor, being an accredited investor, and proceeding with care. One of the things I would say, I got great advice a long time ago, and one of these days I'll listen to it, Stallion, is knowing your numbers and knowing what's enough, right? I got a text message from a guy today, had interviewed me on his podcast, and he asked me the question today. He said, what's the most non-obvious thing that you do that is the hardest in your day to accomplish? And it's being satisfied. I'm just always dissatisfied with the status quo. And in a good way, right? Like I love everything that God's provided for me and know that he continues to give me exactly what I need when I need it. But I have this desire to want to improve things, to see what's around the corner. How do I build this next thing? How do I grow this next thing? And I think that can be an area that we all fall into. And I would just say, like, find out, knowing your numbers. Passive income greater than the monthly expenses is what the financial freedom formula is. Know what your numbers are. Know what your monthly expenses are, so you know when are you actually financially free. Set a goal. Most of our Passive Income Mastermind members have set the goal of at least 200% of their monthly expenses. They know their goal. Now, there's people that will continue to blow through it, right, Mark? But there's others that, knowing their numbers, being confident in where they are, allows them to enjoy the ride and allows them to enjoy the adventure and not get so caught up on the gas, as one of our friends of the show, Scott Spence, was saying the other day, that we need to be more focused on enjoying the road trip that we're on than just trying to put more gas in the car, which was the equivalent of having more money. So I would say proceed with care there. As you continue to grow, you start finding opportunities, you start finding the greatest operators out there, that you don't have to keep finding the next shiny penny once you find the ones that work. Hopefully this was helpful to you as you're checking off that box of becoming an accredited investor so that you can level up in your passive income journey. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything that you shared today. And thank you as you listened. Hopefully you found value. Take time and if you would, rate, review the show, or even screenshot this and post it on social media and tag us. Let us know this is kind of content that you want more of. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.